Hey, good afternoon, friends. Today is Thursday, September the 26th, 2024, and the time now is 3 o'clock p.m. So, I want to talk briefly about three topics or four topics that basically continue to gain momentum in international relations. Therefore, you are watching the playlist series, The Trends and Headlines in Geopolitics, and this is episode 11. I am going to repeat, friends. Once again, you are watching the playlist series, The Trends and Headlines in Geopolitics, and this is episode 11. So, the topics of discussions are, or comments are, Israel's walkie-talkie or pager attacks on Lebanon, and the fact that the situation in the Middle East is spiraling out of control to become an all-out war in the Middle East, a destabilizing or catalyzing event in the Middle East. The assassination attempt on Donald Trump, or the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump, and also the situation relating to Maduro, Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela, who recently, about a week ago now, there was this event that happened in Venezuela. There was an assassination attempt on the life of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. And by the way, this is just a brief comment on these topics or these events, and also a posing of questions. Now, the situation in the Middle East continues to spiral out of control. There has been tit for tat between Israel and Hamas, and now Israel and Hezbollah. So, just recently, within the past few days, or let's say about a week now, you have situation where in Lebanon there were pager attacks. So, you have situations, okay, where people were on their pages or walkie-talkie using it, and these devices exploded, or they had their devices on them and the devices exploded. As a result, some people have died and many injured in Lebanon. So, as much as many Hezbollah fighters have died as a result of this attack, countless civilians also died as a result of the attack. My question then is, why? Why carry out such an attack? Israel, I believe, especially with all the hype that it has the most sophisticated military in the region, one of the most sophisticated military in the world. Whatever the situation is between Israel and Hezbollah or Israel and Hamas, I do believe that Israel can carry out its war effort without resulting into certain activities or actions that could negatively paint a picture of Israel that Israel or the Israeli government do not want. Because this attack, I do feel as if it was senseless. Of course, it is said that Israel basically got access to these pages or walkie-talkie by intercepting an order or several orders of these devices and then fitting them with explosives. Now, as much as that is the case, it is also being alleged that not only Hezbollah fighters are using these pages or walkie-talkie, and also some are saying that, in fact, Hezbollah forces or fighters have not been using these devices, and that these devices are being used mainly by civilian member of the Hezbollah group, okay, or those in southern Lebanon, rather than Hezbollah fighters. If that is the case, and if it is indeed true, then Israel resulted in an activity that is just bad for its reputation, its image around the world. Because this being the case means that Israel basically used public device, okay, or used civilian devices that were being used by nurses and doctors and average people, exploding them, okay. The images that came out of Lebanon as a result of these attacks It was just horrific. One particular picture shows a man who basically, I think, lost both eyes. Some people died instantly. And there were explosion, okay, simultaneous explosion throughout the region where people were just basically going at their business and things are just exploding. But this doesn't sit well, I think, with the international community, and it is not a good thing for Israel's image. Now, one of the reasons with this is that I do feel that there is an economic connection to this and connection which relates to companies in Hungary and in Taiwan. Apparently, a Taiwanese company authorized an Hungarian company to use its name, basically use its name on the product. And then these products were then ordered and were intercepted. So in this case, the Taiwanese company is looking bad. The Hungarian company is looking bad. However, both Taiwan or the Taiwanese company and Hungary and the Hungarian company are basically denying that they play any role in the attack. So this, in the long run, as much as it fits, okay, with the domestic politics of Israel and makes Israel look good among its allies, it is bad in the long run. Now, it seems as if the pager attacks by Israel on Lebanon or southern Lebanon, okay, or on the Hezbollah groups and affiliation has resulted in several consequences for Israel, for the region, and for the world. One being that I do feel as if, as much as these attacks, strategically or in terms of the information warfare, was good for Israel in terms of the propaganda, on the long term, it is bad because it is going to taint Israel's image. One being that it is sending chill down the spines of members of the international community, whether we are talking about leaders, governments, countries, and individuals. Because the fear is that if these attacks can take place, if entities, whether we are talking about terrorist entities or just government, can basically hack or manipulate devices, electronic devices that people are using for their everyday activities to attack them, to kill them. Who knows? The computers we use every day. So this is a dangerous thing. I think Israel's attack, yes, it is good for domestic politics. It is good for momentum among Israeli allies, okay, and supporters. But internationally, this is a scary thing. When I got the news, when I began to look into it, one fear that came to me was that what if one or many of these so-called affiliates, whether we are talking about Hamas's fighters or regular average people, were on a plane when these attacks took place? Of course, we can say that once you are in the plane, okay, once you cross security gates in the airport and the plane take off, to some extent or to a greater extent, you lose connection. So perhaps that could block whatever manipulation could be happening. But in today's world, when countries are sophisticated technologically, who knows, perhaps any country can manipulate an electronic device that is about 30 to 36,000 feet in the air and explode it, which in this case will basically explode a plane. So these attacks were terrible idea, okay? Terrible events, because I do believe they set a standard. They basically gave an idea to any terrorist group out there or any government or institutions out there that want to engage in any mass attack, terroristic attack, to basically achieve their objectives. Now, in terms of Hezbollah, as much as this attack was good for Israel as a propaganda exercise, I do believe it is a humiliation for Hezbollah, because what Israel is saying, or what this implies, is that Israel can get access to Hezbollah. Basically, Hezbollah cannot hide. no matter where Hezbollah is, as much and as long as Hezbollah forces out there or affiliates can use electronic devices, Israel or whatever or whichever Hezbollah enemy is out there can access these devices, kill Hezbollah troops or fighters, and humiliate the group. So this is very interesting. But on the other hand, we can also argue that it basically teaches Hezbollah a lesson. So there is an African saying that whoever causes a person misfortune or whoever causes a person humiliation also teaches them lesson, valuable lessons. I'm going to repeat that. There is an African saying, whoever causes a person misfortune or whoever causes a person humiliation also teaches them lessons, valuable lessons. So, as much as these attacks made Israel look good among its allies and friends, I do believe that it is going to teach Hezbollah valuable lesson, and perhaps one of these lessons could be staying away from electronics, which if that is the case, when they stayed away from electronics, or if they begin to invest in electronics and advance in electronics, one, they could retaliate and have negative impact on Israel, okay, Israel's effectiveness and communication, or by them staying away from electronics could actually make things difficult for Israel, because if you are depending on electronics and your enemies are not using electronics, you're on pause, okay, you are ineffective. Now, in terms of international relations, these attacks, I do believe, will have some economic implication as well, because we can argue that these attacks and the fear that it sends throughout the world could, one, impact sales of these devices, okay, pages or Motorola's around the world, could also impact Western economics or economies as well. Because if there are situations where you have one entity is attacking another entity through the pages or through the Motorola's walkie-talkie, this means then that if you are a country, especially a country that is at odds with Western countries, you do not want to purchase Motorola's, okay, or walkie-talkies or cell phones from companies based in the West. In this case, you have a company from Taiwan granting permission to a Hungarian company to use its name. Now, you have these companies, both of them saying that they have no connection to the attacks. But this, in the long run, basically has tainted the images of these countries, both Taiwan and Hungary. So this, I do believe, in the long term, is going to have an economic implication or a negative economic impact. Now, for the next topic, that basically which pertains to the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. The gunman never get to use the gun, never get to release the shot, okay, the bullet, because a Secret Service officer or agent spotted him way in advance, shot at him, and he ran away, where he was caught soon after and taken into custody. Now, I do believe that Americans throughout the United States and even many in the international community must celebrate, because had that gunman managed to harm Donald Trump, it could have, I do believe, even led to unrest in the United States, which could have also impacted the global community. Whether we are talking about trade, finance, economics, industry, and so on, because the United States is the paragon of international relations. So any major unrest in the United States can have a negative impact on the rest of the world. So the good thing here is Donald Trump is safe and he was never harmed. But the negative thing here is that Donald Trump now continues to blame Democrats and those on the left and blaming them that they were responsible for both assassination attempts. There are those in the United States and many Trump supporters who are saying, quote unquote, that the deep state wants Donald Trump dead and this and that. If that is the case, then they are doing a terrible job at it, because what this is doing is making Donald Trump stronger and could win the election for Donald Trump, which in this case, if he wins the election, he is going to come with a vengeance, and he is going to come and do whatever he wants to do, and they cannot stop him. Now, I mentioned that Donald Trump continues to blame Democrats and people on the left for the failed assassination attempt, and also basically for both assassination attempts which failed. Now, as much as that makes Donald Trump look strong and tough among his supporters or within the Republican camps, it is a bad politics and it is destabilizing for the United States. Who knows? Calling the Democrat out for a failed assassination attempt by somebody who supposedly was a Trump supporter who had voted for Donald Trump, who was a registered Republican or is a registered Republican, it's a bad thing, because not only it is that the Democrats, Democratic leadership or the deep state, as they say, has nothing to do with this, but doing such thing is basically stoking a fire, and it could lead somebody. It could possibly lead somebody out there who thinks that they are doing God's work to go out there and start attacking Democrats or people or members of the left, which in this case could lead to a whole lot of things in the United States. But then we need to call Donald Trump out, because what we are seeing, as much as both assassination attempts were bad, and the fact that the recent assassination attempt didn't come into fruition because it was foiled before it happens, what we are seeing is a situation, or there are activities that resulted from Trump's own propaganda, or Trump own from his mouth, because we are seeing unfolding things that Trump himself contributed to. But then the question is, as much as this guy, his name is Ryan Roth, as much as they are saying, yes, he is 58 years old, he was a registered Republican, he had been to Ukraine and wanted to recruit people from Afghanistan, fighters from Afghanistan, to fight in Ukraine. As much as they are saying that, or evidence has it that he had been in the running with the law for too many times, too many reasons. But the thing is, he had access to gun. So the question is, will Donald Trump and members of the Republican Party say yes to a gun control law, say yes to a gun control debate? Because the truth here is that people who should not be having access to gun do have access to gun, and they are carrying out their emotion or psychological experience, their feeling in terms of violence or brutal attacks against innocents and those with whom they disagree. And in this case, on 2 occasions, you have somebody trying to take out Donald Trump. So this is a very serious thing that America as a country, as an entity, political entity or society, must acknowledge and come about having a thorough, fair discussion on how to solve the situation, the problems. I have asked many times whether at this time in the world, during a divide, a gross divide in international relations, whether we are experiencing the beginning of an assassination pandemic. I am not sure that that is the case. I am not sure that we are there yet, that we are experiencing an assassination pandemic. Even though we've had now, of course, there are those who are going to debate the first, but 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump. There was or were assassination attempts on the leader of Burkina Faso. There had been some assassination attempts and coups in Africa. There were those who continue to call for someone to take out Vladimir Putin. So throughout the world, we've seen a lot of stuff. We saw the Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico being shot 5 times, and he had survived. Now, recently, about a week now, or within the time span of a week, we saw a failed assassination attempt in Venezuela. The Venezuelan authority arrested some Americans and Europeans for the failed assassination attempt in Venezuela. Yes, the United States had denied any participation in the assassination attempt, but it is said that one of the assassin, or the would-be assassins, is an American who is a Navy vet. That in this case is suspicious. Yes, the United States can deny it. Yes, it is plausible that this Navy vet has no connection with the US government. However, the way the United States has been acting recently toward Venezuela or towards Maduro, it is easy for anybody to conclude that the United States had participated in the assassination attempt against Maduro. One being that much recently, the plane of Maduro was seized, and the United States does have the president of Venezuela, Maduro's plane. There has been called for Maduro to step down by the United States and Western allies. Actually, when you look at what's happening, those who are making these remarks and calls are the United States and its allies, basically the conceptual West, the white West, the Anglosphere, and Europeans. Now, just recently, I think about 3 days ago, I came across an article where an American official is basically calling or putting out bounty for the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro. It is a senseless, stupid, and bad politics. The American officials, many of them are engaging in senseless politics that puts the United States in a very terrible, very compromising situation where the United States continues to look bad and lose face in international relations. It should not be in the habit by American officials to publicly call for these leaders to be killed, these leaders to be ousted, or these leaders to be arrested. One being that, as much as we are seeing a changing global order, it doesn't necessarily mean that this order will come to fruition as many are predicting. However, American officials must begin to consider the fact that when things spin around and change, there could be many who are calling for American officials to be persecuted. However, as much as that may not happen, the fact that American officials are calling for this and that against other leaders around the world, it makes American leaders look petty and makes them look hypocritical and so on. But in terms of the call for Maduro's head, Argentina has done the same as well. So, an Argentinian court issued an arrest warrant for the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. Now, for Argentina, it seems that this is just a politics. It is just a politics of trying to fit in. It is a politics of association. It seems as if Argentina is trying to fit in. Argentina is trying to look important in South America, in the region. Argentina is trying to look superior in the region and in international relations in the world. As much as we can say that Argentina doesn't have the manpower, and Argentina is much farther away from where Venezuela is to carry out soldiers or police force or whatsoever to go arrest this guy. Perhaps we can also conclude or speculate that Argentina could have been one of the entities that initiated, support, or propagate the recent failed assassination attempt in Venezuela against the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro. But this then begs the question, why? Why engage in such politics? Why not working to try to seal a South American or a Latin American union. Yes, it's not going to be one country, but strengthen the Latin American group, the Latin American world. Unlike many countries in Africa and elsewhere, Latin American countries, many of them can boast of having just one language or one dominating language, Spanish, which they can use to their own advantage to create some kind of regional unity, which can make Latin America much greater, much powerful, much richer than it is. But instead, it seems as if Latin American leaders are engaging in politics of trying to outdo one another or trying to look big and powerful and get one another, which in this case, who benefits? The United States and the West. However, as much as an Argentinian court is putting out a warrant against Maduro, it is petty. It is a serious business. It is something that I do believe Maduro is going to be taken very seriously, because anybody in this time in age can assassinate, can take out anybody. Also, there is an implication of regional destabilization that this could lead to. But I'm going to try to keep an eye on this situation, see how it unfolds between Argentina and Venezuela, and see which course Argentina will take, because it seems that Argentina is trying to look important. And I know even when the recent Argentinian president came into power, he was tough talking. He was doing some things that were just chaotic. Whether we are talking about relating to the Argentinian currency, economy, or economics. Now, my friends, I'm going to end here. I want to hear what you think, and please tell me what you think. But I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, and I want to thank you very much, a lot, for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace.